still go, 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 go.
Knudsen,
What's up,
this
Tursky?
is Two Guys Talking Golf.
What's going on, man? How you been?
No travel this week. Not in Hawaii this week.
Well-
Greg's not in Hawaii this week. So, yes, it's the 2023 Sony Open in Hawaii, but we did not attend. So we don't have any leaked images or in-hand photos, unfortunately. I'm just looking at I keep a note sheet that I go off of on a list.
There's no
Well, I tried to write Waialae Country Club, like the name of the course. I definitely did not spell it right. I'm not going to tell you how I spelled it, but it didn't go well.
It's not. It's a phonetic spelling. That's
I
what it
lived
was.
just down the road from Waialae for 2 years too. I was going to grad school out at a Hawaii Pacific University in Honolulu. If anyone's ever heard of it, we are the Sea Warriors. We're now the Sea Sharks, I believe. I think they changed the name to the Sharks. But either way, I don't know how to spell Waialae, so I'm going to have to brush up on that. It is Sony Open week. I think we should give a little update on what happened last week, or get some thoughts. Did you watch it all on Sunday? Because Saturday, I threw it on for a little bit. Morikawa's lead blew up to like 6 going into Sunday. So I kind of wrote it off in my head. I was like, oh, Colin won this week. Like, that's awesome. So I didn't really even tune in on Sunday. I just wrote it off in my head. But then I got some texts from just some buddies, like just some sports fans. I guess they were watching. They sent over some texts like, are you seeing what's happening? Like, Colin meltdown and Rahm's making a huge comeback. So I hurried up, flipped it on over to the golf, and right as I flipped over, Morikawa chunked another chip, and they were showing a flashback of him sculling the bunker shot over the green. Just absolutely disastrous last, 7 holes for Colin?
Something like that,
Because he was 3 under on the front. I mean, he was looking good. Even though Rahm was charging, he was obviously playing out of his mind well. Like, the wind was up, and he was still torching that course, which is tough to do.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Colin just fell apart. I think after, what did he say? He was like, I'm just sad. All I feel is sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he said
I
something.
bet you are. I feel you. And I know it's kind of like a money grab thing for people that won last year. There were 39 guys. I think Xander withdrew to make it 38, and last place pockets like 200,000, 250K, something like that. So it's definitely a money grab type of event. You know, free vacation for the fan, start the year off right. But you never want to blow a 6-shot lead. That's not a good way to start the year. And I don't know if he's ever blown a lead before, but he'll have some scar tissue from that. It's not like he blew the U.S. Open lead, but, you know, next time he goes into a Sunday with a lead, in the back of his mind, he's got to be thinking, hey, I blew this before, you know, let's tighten it up. Whereas going into this, he was probably just like, yep, another lead for me. I'll capitalize. I'll win the $4 million, whatever first prize ended up getting, and then I'll carry on the rest of my year. But nope.
Yeah. Unfortunately I didn't see much of it. Only I pretty much saw what I saw. I saw the very end. And the worst part about it is, so I was traveling all Sunday last week. And I spent a few days in Carlsbad, the golf
Which
mecca.
we will talk about.
And I was unfortunately having dinner with a gentleman who works at TaylorMade, and it was a very somber conversation when the group was talking about what happened at the Sentry. I know, so it was not. I think he said, like, when he walked in the room, like, I've watched better golf tournaments or something. It was like, oh boy. But yeah, I saw some of the highlights of some of those wedge shots, and I mean, they look like me out there, you know, just laying sod over shots and whatever. I mean, does it have to be nerves? At that level, you wouldn't think. I mean, nerves would be that big of a factor, but man, it was tough to watch. I mean, basically that back nine cost him $1.2 million. Yeah. Rahm won 2.7. Second place is 1.5. He puts together an average back nine, and he wins the thing. So, yeah, just, I mean, a brutal meltdown. It was tough. Like I said, I saw the highlights. I thankfully didn't see it live in person, but yeah, just kind of it kind of reminded me also of, like, remember when Tiger first came back from, was it the back surgery? And I can't remember what tournament he played, and the same thing, he just like was like chunking chips and blading them, and it was like cringing to watch because you didn't want to see that. Like, you wanted to see perfect form, and it wasn't there yet. And man, watching Colin, that was tough. It's a tough loss, tough loss for him. And it's like you said, that's gonna haunt him a little bit. And I think the next tournament where he's in, and it's like a race with him and somebody else, there's those thoughts could pop back into the head, and it can be tough for him to overcome it.
I definitely don't want to compare Colin with Tiger, because I do think Tiger had the full-blown yips for about a year and a half with the short game. I know he was talking about releasing the club a little bit differently, but it's like, we're seeing what's going on. Like, you just flat bladed across the green, made triple. But with Colin, it's like, I know people are going to point to nerves and be like, the pressure of the situation got to him. He's won major championships. I'm sure that, the Sentry Tournament of Champions out in Maui at Kapalua, is not going to, like, scare him. But I do think, like, the bigger impact that was had was he retooled his short game. I don't know, like, what time frame, but starting last year through the winter break, he kind of retooled his short game. He changed his putter, his stroke. I think he worked on his chipping, his pitching with a new coach. Now, when you're under the heat of the fire and you have a completely different, scheme that you're attacking with, a completely different system that you chipped with, maybe new clubs, maybe new bounce, grind, like, you're relying on that inner athlete there at the end, when your mind's going crazy and, you're just trying to get the ball on the green. Having, like, that technique that you've been using your whole life to rely on, now it's gone. Like, you throw in just a touch of nerves, and all of a sudden it looks like you're choking it away really bad, where it was really just a couple bad short game shots. Now that's not a good sign for the short game things he's working on, but maybe that was the test he needed. They're going to go back and retool a little bit, make some tweaks, make sure he's comfortable in different competitive circumstances. So maybe you start throwing some games and drills into your practice sessions, something like that. I don't want to say he fully choked, but 6 is a lot of shots. Okay. And in the fashion that he did it in, it just makes it seem like, wow, he's just crumbling. Putting a new short game on a course in Hawaii where the grass is a little bit sketchier than normal. I'm not saying the conditions at Kapalua were bad. It's just that type of grass. It's just very grabby. So if you don't catch it really clean, if you're not using the bounce exactly the right way, you can see how that stuff happens. And then all of a sudden strokes lead into, you lost a 6-shot lead. But I don't want to take away anything from Rahm, because he absolutely killed it on Sunday.
Dude, boy shot 10 under. I mean, he basically went out there saying, I'm going to post a number. If Morikawa doesn't play well, I win. And it's exactly what he did. I mean, like you said, you can't take anything away from him. He did the one thing that he could do, and that was go out, put down a crazy number, and just see, and ended up winning. But you're right. I mean, it's so interesting when an amateur makes a swing change, they can do it on the range, get it on the range, that changes down, whether it's a new chipping motion or, you're fixing that driver slice, whatever it is. But then when you go to tee it up and you look down that fairway and you see, like, there's water on the right and, whatever, it's kind of the same thing, at different levels in a sense, but it's the same thing. I mean, it wasn't his short game wasn't tried and it wasn't battle tested yet. Now it is. And now, like you said, I mean, hopefully he takes it as a confidence booster to say, all right, I definitely got to work on this a little more. And hopefully it comes back for it. But I mean, we've all been there as amateurs when you try to make that change to anything in your swing. And then the first time you get out on the course and you have to utilize it, it doesn't always go as planned. You could sit there and be just striping it at the range and, all right, I've got it locked in, I've got it down. And then, like you said, as soon as those nerves kick in, the old muscle memory may come back and it could throw a wrench into the gears. So I think we've all had that same feeling. Unfortunately, none of us have had to lose $1.2 million over it.
Tough. That's a tough lesson.
I'm pretty sure that nobody listening is in that kind of income bracket.
And I never will lose $1.2 million.
No, I'm happy to say there is such a slim chance of me ever losing $1.2 million on in a golf bet that I don't think I've won that $1 billion Powerball, whatever it is. So I don't have that kind of cash to lose. But like I said, you can relate to it on an amateur level if you've ever gone through, like I said, that swing change, and then you walk out that first round and try to put it in play, and just doesn't quite go the way you thought it would. You drew it up in your head. So,
like I said, I'm not a mental coach. I'm not a professional mental coach. I'm also not a PGA Tour player. I've never won on the PGA Tour. I never will. I never will win on the PGA Tour. I've never won a major. But I will say, for myself, I have a little trick that I've used in my life. When you're really under like that competitive heat, whether it's coming down at the end, whether it's a tournament, a qualifier, even just like an outing where you're playing scramble with your buddies, or, maybe you have a NASA, you have a big shot. When there's like out of bounds on the left, that's probably my nemesis. And coming down the stretch, if there's, out of bounds on the left on a tee-ball, I really got to put one in play. What I'll do mentally is I'll just envision the shot going out of bounds. Like, I'll pretend that was my first shot. And then I'll be like, all right, so I already duck hooked it out of bounds. So now what do we do? It's almost like the mentality of when you're hitting a provisional ball, you always hit the second one better. It's because you're kind of freed up. It's like you let your mind go there, and now you step up. It's like, okay, I duck hooked the first one. Now I can kind of just get up and rip it. I can kind of just let it go. And it's just like a little mind trick, So in Colin's circumstance, if I have like a really tough pitch shot and I'm not feeling great, which typically happens on 30-yard pitch shots for me, whether it's the first hole or the 18th hole, I struggle.
Yeah.
But what I would do mentally is like already blade it over the green, already chunk it, and it's like, all right, let's just hit a good one now. Because it kind of frees you up just to like let that athlete take over and just hit a good shot. Whatever you're working on, like keep the one key, whether it's your backswing or something you're trying to feel an impact, just narrow it down to one thought, because your mind still is going to be racing. Narrow it down to one thought and just free yourself up to try to hit an actual good shot under pressure.
That's pretty interesting, actually. I mean, it does make sense because, like you said, I mean, a lot of times that is the case. If you get a second shot at something after hitting a bad one, as long as you're not filled with like ultimate rage, then yeah, you usually do hit it a little better, and you kind of don't care at that point.
Yeah.
You already took the double or in your mind. So that's interesting. I'll have to try that one the next time I get out and play and smoke one out of bounds or have like a tough tee shot and just say, hey, you've already wiped that thing. You've already smoked that thing left over the fence.
Like you already made triple.
You've already
on
put
the
it in
hole.
six.
Like might as well try to make par.
Yeah.
Now. Plus the good thing about it is if you duck hook it mentally, you don't actually break the driver over your knee.
Ooh,
so
true.
Keep the
That's a good
integrity of
point.
the clubs. Yeah, exactly.
It's a good point. You don't have to go find a new shaft for that thing.
All right. So it's Sony Open. We're not out there. We don't have too much intel, but there's a lot going on in the golf industry right now. We can
True.
start with Gary Woodland. While we're not out there, I did send some questions over to the PGA Tour team. They asked Gary the questions, so we do have some insight on why he switched to Cobra. So he won the U.S. Open 2019. He also signed with Wilson that same year at the beginning of the year. So he signed in January. He won the Open in June, I believe. Since then, he's been with Wilson. He's been playing the staff model, Forged Blades, pretty much through the bag, through pitching wedge. He even would throw in like the 2-iron occasionally. But throughout his time at Wilson, he was pretty much able to play with any metal wood he wanted, whether it's driver, fairway wood. So he had kind of grown accustomed to switching into a Titleist driver, TaylorMade, Callaway, Ping, Cobra. Like, he played all those in that 3-year span. He's big on testing drivers. You know, when new stuff comes out, he pretty much tests everything. I see it week to week. You know, he'll change around with his driver shafts. He'll play around with the length, you know, the head weight, all sorts of stuff. He's a bigger tester than people probably give him credit for. Not with the irons. He just straight up played the irons for 4 years. Not too much change there. But with the driver and fairway woods, he was used to changing. So when, what was it at? He switched to, it was in Congaree. He switched to the Aerojet driver and 3-wood in Congaree. We caught up with him, I believe it was Houston, to take some in-hand photos just to hear what he had to say about the driver. At that point, I was not thinking that he was going to fully sign with Cobra. You know, it was just like, oh, Gary's using a Cobra driver this week instead of a Ping, TaylorMade, Callaway. It wasn't like my alarm bells are ringing. Okay, this means Gary's going to Cobra. You know, it was a little different than like the Kevin Kisner switch up, where it's like, hold up, he's playing a Wilson driver and he's testing Wilson irons. He must be going to Wilson. This was a little different circumstance. Well, he signed with Cobra, and he also is switching like his entire bag. So he already switched to the driver and 3-wood. I talked to Ben Shulman, so you know this is all verified information. He also now has a backup. I guess not a backup. It's more just like an option, because sometimes he'll play at 2-iron, sometimes he'll play at driving iron, sometimes he'll play at 5-wood. So they built him up a 5-wood to LTD XLS. It's only 40.5 inches, which is pretty short. I think the normal standard 5-wood's about 41.5, 42, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's like 42.
So the 5-wood's definitely cut down, you know, just for more control. You know, get that performance acting more like an iron and less like a 3-wood that you're going to rip off the tee as far as you can. So that kind of brought the spin down with that 5-wood going shorter. He's actually playing the same length 3-wood or same length 5-wood as Ricky, and Ricky plays all his stuff pretty short.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to try 40.5 out, I definitely recommend going short on like a 5-wood or a 7-wood, something like that. I feel like it defeats the purpose if it's too long. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not trying to hit 5-wood 275 yards. I just want to drop it into a bucket. Like, I'm trying to hold a green with the 5-wood, okay? Not only going for distance. So he threw the 5-wood in. He's also changing into the King musclebacks. He's not changing into the Rev 33s, unfortunately. That was my theory. And he's got 2 Cobra King wedges he's throwing in, 52, 56. It looks like, as of now, he's going to stay with the 60-degree lob wedge and the long neck Scotty Cameron putter. I think he's still playing that long neck Scotty Cameron, unless he's switched. So I could be wrong there. But so that's what? 12 out of 14 clubs he's changed within, you know, a certain time frame. Obviously through the driver and 3-wood in early, but definitely a big bag switch. So we asked Gary, like, what's up? Why'd you switch? Essentially. He was saying it's the driver. He tried the driver out, absolutely fell in love with it. And I think that's probably was a catalyst to like, hey, maybe, you know, I could sign a full bag deal with Cobra. I obviously like their driver. You know, maybe it was a re-up year for Wilson. I'm sure he didn't just like leave mid-contract. So his Wilson contract was probably up. He did say in the quotes, let me try to find these real quick, because I can speak exactly instead of just paraphrasing, because I do have the quotes written out. Stalling a little bit.
It's all right.
Okay.
No, it's. I think it's a solid move for him. You know, I mean, like you said, I mean, he loves the driver. Cobra makes really underrated irons.
They can make prototypes as well.
You know,
obviously, they proved with Ricky and Bryson. So if it's like he doesn't love the off-the-rack irons, he can work with some prototypes, which I will get to in a second. All right, so I found the quotes.
Okay.
We asked, what was the influence with signing with Cobra? He said, to be honest, it was the new Aerojet driver. I've had flexibility in the past with the driver, which we talked about, which is a good thing, he said, but I absolutely fell in love with the driver. To me, the irons were switching from a blade to a blade, so there's not a lot going on. I have a little less offset in my irons, but for me, the driver is what sold me on the deal. I was very excited to put it in play, and I'm excited going forward. He also says, looking forward with the contract, I'm going to be with them for a very long time. Now, I don't want to read into that too much because it was just like an aside type comment. But that is what he said. So maybe it was longer than just a year. You know, it could be a 5 to 10 type situation. Take him into the rest of his PGA Tour career until he starts playing Champions. Like, it could be kind of he's going to be with Cobra for the rest of his career type thing. I don't know. I mean, he's the one that said, I'll be with them for a long time. So I don't know exactly what he meant. We're not going to get that answer because companies don't tell us for how long these deals are. But anyway, I'm going to be with them for a long time. I love Ben Shulman, who's been with Cobra. He's helped me the last couple of years with my equipment anyway. So yeah, for the last couple of years, he's definitely worked pretty closely with Ben Shulman. I don't know if that's the only, tour fitter or rep that he works with when it comes to his fairway woods and driver. I'm sure he does work with Wilson if he has any iron needs, or he had been.
Yeah.
But he obviously has a pretty good relationship with Ben Shulman. Shulman knows his equipment very well. So I think they're both just excited about the switch up.
That's pretty interesting when you say like a long time, because what is that? For him, is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10? Is it 20? But interesting that they said that, and him to be like kind of, to be there for a long time. I mean, I guess we'll see. Like you said, we won't know until pretty much the end of the contract if he decides to go somewhere else.
Well, we now know that Wilson's was probably 4 years, or it was 3 years, and he renewed for one because it was 4 years since he signed the Wilson deal.
True. So I mean, maybe it is like 10 years or something, which is kind of crazy because you pretty much only think of guys like, the Tigers, the Rorys, the Phils, the those guys who sign deals that are crazy long, it seems. But no, like I said, I think it's a good fit for him. I think, Cobra's woods have been, Cobra in general, their equipment's been kind of, flying under the radar the past few years. And if you've tried it, you know how good it is. If you haven't, then you're really missing out. But I think I haven't hit the new Aerojet yet. I've heard, I was actually talking to a guy today, and he was saying the rumblings are that it's really, really good. So I hopefully will be hitting it shortly. I know we have some at the office. I haven't got my grubby little hands on them yet, but I will definitely be trying to.
Hands grubby.
Heck yeah, man. When it comes to golf clubs, they are. But I mean, like you said, like you look at the, like Cobra's iron lineup is super solid if you're a better player. I mean, you look at, they've got the MB.
They do everything
really.
It's the super game improvement.
But I mean, I think Cobra always, because when Cobra and Titleist were owned by Acushnet and they kind of ran near the end of the days, it was Titleist was for the player, Cobra was for the guy, the high handicap guy. Like that's how they kind of separated them. And now you look at Cobra and they got top to bottom, whatever you need. But I mean, you look at, they have an MB, a forged MB, a forged CB, a King C, or what is it, the King Tour, which is kind of like the player's distance kind of speed type iron. And then you get into like the Forge Tech, which is also, again, kind of like another player's distance. I mean, if you're, that 15 handicap and under, there are so many options for you to play. And, a guy like him, like you said, I mean, whether it's a prototype, whether it's something they offer, I mean, he could combo set. Like, there's so many options for him to play. The one part that'll be interesting to see long run, if it stays in the bag, is wedges. Because that's been the one thing that it seems like Cobra staffers, other than Ricky, they typically don't hang with the wedges too long. And hopefully, I mean, and I'm not knocking the wedges because I've played them. They're soft. They spin a ton. Like, they're good wedges. Hopefully they'll be able to maybe either prototype some stuff like they did for Ricky, or keep him in some wedges, because that's the one thing that it looks like, like I said, Cobra guys either go back to, Avoki or wherever they were from. They typically go back to something like that. But and putter, I don't think they'll ever get the Scotty out of his hands, only because I feel like the putters they have are good. They're just different. Like those sick faces, all that, they just roll a little different. And I just, that could take a little while to get him into a different putter. And I think every company that's tried to mill something to get somebody away from another, a putter, it's either taken a really long time or just doesn't work. So I think we'll see a lot of Cobra clubs in his bag. My guess is putter stays, and we may see some different wedges. Like that would be maybe my only thing that I see in his bag that isn't Cobra. The rest of it, is there. And then on the other plus side for him, he gets to choose whatever ball he wants to play. Cobra's not a ball company, so if he wants to play Pro V1 or TP5 or Strixon or whoever, he wants to go to Wilson, whatever. He gets to play whatever ball he wants to play. So I think it's a good combo because he's got a lot of good equipment choices, and it opens him up to have some stuff in there that he may want to have that's not Cobra. So I think it's a good mix of flexibility and one brand.
That was really well said, Brian. I thought you did a great job with that analysis.
I appreciate that.
I do think it's clutch on like a huge club equipment switch to be able to keep your golf ball, keep your putter, keep your driver. Those are like the most impactful switches to me. And like you said with the wedges, I do think Cobra makes great wedges. When it comes to the 60, it's like you got to play what you're used to until someone can replicate it. Because if you're completely changing your grind and your bounce, and even the grooves, it can just change your yardages and feels up so much that it's like you almost have to relearn the short game. So I could see him holding on to the 60 and the putter. He probably has an 11 club deal, would be my guess, so that he can play the putter,
makes sense,
wedge, and then just have like a floater in there, especially for a guy like that who changes between 5-wood, driving iron, and 2-iron a lot. He probably still wanted to keep that flexibility, so he'll probably have a slightly moving bag for a little bit, but he seems pretty locked in with the driver and the irons. I do have a couple quick quotes left from Gary that I thought I'd include.
All right.
He said, "I'm switching to the Cobra muscleback irons. I liked where I was at, and I'm equally excited about where I'm going. There's a little less offset, which I like looking down at. It's a very traditional blade, but the interaction with the turf has been amazing. I literally had no changes made to them, literally right off the rack, and I put them in play. So all you fitting custom heads, take that. There's some irons off the rack." And I'm talking to myself because I'm the one that's always talking about fitting and custom. Right off the rack for Gary. Then he said, we asked our last question, did you ever use Cobra clubs like growing up? Like, did you have any Cobra influence as a junior? He said, my first set of clubs I ever got as a kid was a Cobra set. My first couple clubs were cut from my mom, but my first junior set of clubs were Cobra. So it's kind of a dream come true to actually play them out on tour. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty. That's
a neat little tidbit. So cool enough to include. What was your first set? I know we've talked about this probably a million times in this podcast, but I forget the things we say.
So realistically, my first set was, like everybody, had a few cut down clubs, and then I had my grandmother's set when I was, playing like real junior golf, middle school, whatever. And it was like a baby blue bag, and it had woodwoods, and they were baby blue and black, kind of faded in and out. They were some type of blade-ish looking thing. They were horrible. I don't even remember what they were. I hated it because it was like a baby blue staff bag, kind of leather bag. And they were horrible.
Was it like a turquoise color?
That was
the bag?
No, it was like Tiffany blue. Okay. Unfortunately,
I remember having a turquoise set. I don't remember who made it. It might have been Spalding or something. When I was
these
young, 4 years old.
Yeah, these were 70s. But then honestly, I kind of had pieced together sets because I didn't really play again until basically after high school. I just didn't really play. So when I did, I'd have I played every once in a while if somebody wanted to go play, my friends or something like that, or I'd maybe play one time a year, if that.
We had a
through
high school golf experience. I was grinding in high school, super hard, trying to get college. You weren't even playing.
Yeah, I was playing. No, I was playing football, running track, snowboarding, whatever. I had no time for playing golf back then. And then like basically after high school, college time, I started working at a shop when I moved back home, was going to school, living at home or my parents' house, and I got a job at a shop, and that like sparked it. So then it was just, piecing together sets from whatever people traded in or whatever I could get from a rep.
Making it
that was just making it work, man. So, but yeah, no, I never like had like a kid's like set or like a junior like set that was like bought or anything. I just never did because I didn't play.
Bunch. I mean, I started golf early and I never really stopped. I did play like football, baseball, basketball growing up, and I still played basketball in high school. But I always had clubs and kind of to my size. So I had like a Spalding. Well, I had a plastic club when I was, fresh out of the womb, probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure Pops wanted to get me to play golf, so he had a partner. But then I had like, it was a turquoise, like you said, a really mini turquoise carry bag, and I think it was Spalding. I had a driver, a 7-iron, a 9-iron, and a putter. I think that was it. So it's like a little
that's all you needed.
set. And then my grandfather got me a set of La Jolla.
Oh yeah, I remember La Jolla. Yeah.
So it's a pitching wedge / 9-iron. You want to hit 9-iron, you grip all the way up. If you want to hit pitching wedge, you choke down. And the set continued like that. It was a 7/8, and then it was a 5/6. It was a driver /3 wood. Like it was an early combo set, I suppose.
Did it have the La Jolla knife sole?
Man, I don't.
Did it have like little fins on the bottom? I remember selling. We had La Jolla sets. I mean, they typically were box sets at the shop, and I remember they came out with like the knife sole or something like that, and they were basically like a shark fin on the bottom, and it was supposed to like hit the turf and like slide through and stuff.
It was just like a solid head. It was almost like those U.S. kids clubs. But I felt a little bit cooler because everyone had U.S. kids clubs, and I had La Jolla. No one else had La Jolla. So it was balling. And then my first like real set was actually a set of knockoff Callaway. What would that have been? They were knockoff Callaway steelhead irons.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But they weren't Callaway, obviously.
Of course
Steel
not.
had like STEAL head.
Because they were stolen.
I actually got.
What was it, Calcutta?
It was almost a tin cup type range. You just went out there and happened to have clubs to get fit with. Obviously, fake clubs. I would give that local range a shout out if I remember the name, but I hope they're not slinging knockoffs anymore. So that was my progression.
My first metal wood, like when my dad had some like 3 wood that was like a fake Callaway Big Bertha, and that was my first metal wood in my bag. Like he had one, stopped using it for whatever reason, and gave it to me, and I can't remember what it was called. It was said like instead of the Big Bertha, it was like the Big Dog or something. Something so like stupid.
The knockoff market,
but it looked
like during that time
back then,
kind of that early 90s, even probably late.
It was
90s,
huge.
It was huge, probably unregulated. There was no Twitter or Instagram or whatever for people to get super called out. There's probably no like. It was probably the early stages of all the lawsuits that they ended up winning, which cleared the market out. So I probably have multiple knockoffs that I don't even know are knockoffs that I bought off bought secondhand from a thrift store or something like that. I mean, I was kind of grinding for affordable clubs and sets like that too until I reached a point where people started giving me free stuff. So.
Ooh.
Which is basically this year.
Yeah. 2 years ago. I got it.
Okay. Anyway, so that's what we got on the Gary Woodland signing. Do you have anything on the actual Aerojet products? Because they did hit retail. I personally have not hit it. I also know that I talked about the Callaway Paradym last week. I don't have the club yet, so I can't give an update on my testing. I'm hoping by next week. Like, as soon as I get it, I'm going to hit it. So just a quick update on that. And I haven't hit the Aerojet yet. I've seen it. I've taken pictures. I mean, I took the photos of Gary Woodland's driver with the lead tape all over it, stuff like that. So I have seen it and held it, but I just haven't hit a ball with it yet.
Yeah, no, Aerojet I have not hit. Like I said, the clubs were at my house for about an hour and a half or 2 hours
Not enough
before
time for
one of our guys. I was in Carlsbad, so they showed up and they were picked up by a coworker of ours from my house. My wife accepted them and then gave them right away. So no, I've only seen the photos, but I remember the first photo like that you guys took, like you and Greg took of like Gary's, and then I think we had Duffner's photo and a couple other guys on tour. I really like the look. I think it looks awesome. I think they, in terms of the looks department, I think Cobra killed it. I think it will look awesome sitting on a shelf. I think it just looks really good overall. I'm excited to hit it. I think the LTD, I mean, the past couple drivers, if you think about it from Cobra, have been so good that if it's better than the LTDX, it's going to be stupid good. And like I said, I've heard a few rumblings from people who have hit it saying it is an absolute monster. So the fairways look solid. The driver looks absolutely amazing, and as always, the irons that they have coming out right now look really good too. So, like I said, I may go into the office tomorrow. Hopefully, maybe I can get my hands on some woods and maybe hit them over the weekend or something like that. But right now, I have not, only because I was had I been in town early this week, I would have something for you, but unfortunately, I was not.
So I'm just looking at the crown real quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, it looks kind of similar to the Paradym. Obviously, different colors, but a lot of carbon up top on the crown.
Yep.
Which leads me to a question. How much longer do we have to look at, like, a carbon crown until it's like, okay, we're over the carbon look. We just want carbon as the material of the crown, but we don't want it to look like there's carbon. You know what I mean? Like, we're still in that phase of we want to show off that the crown is new and it's light and it's carbon and it's a technologically sound driver, the latest and greatest type thing. Like, you want to show off that there's carbon there. How long is that window until it starts becoming, okay, let's cover up the carbon? Never. So this is like just the new look of drivers from now until forever.
I think there's always going to be, there's going to be times when people do fully paint them, and that's fine. But the whole thing the whole thing to it in my mind is it's visible tech. If they say, hey, yeah, there's this crazy light carbon crown, they give all the specs for it, and you look down at the top and it's just gloss black. You're telling a story, but the consumer can't see it. They'll just go, okay. But if you say, wow, check out this crazy carbon crown, and it's, X grams, and it's super light, and they pick the club up, and there's a piece of carbon fiber there, they'll be like, oh, wow, check that out. There it is. It's the one thing that I thought TaylorMade always did really, really well is visible tech. Like they put the slots and stuff, and they'd kind of accentuate where those, speed slots were and things like that. They always kind of had that visible tech. Whatever they said was in the driver, you could pretty much see it on the outside.
There's a fine line there,
to me, I think,
because like I do want visible tech. I want visible tech. I want to see what's going on. Then you pick up Ping G430 or whatever.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Well, I'm saying you look down on the crown. It's like, this is way too much visible technology. I don't want all that on the crown.
The turbulators.
Or like,
but
my brain goes to the old Mizuno driver. I forget which one it was, but it had like 4 sliding weights in the hole. And that was like, all right, too much, too busy. Let's reel it back. It's like, there's just such a fine line. I do feel for research and design or research and development, marketing, all these companies that have to keep coming up with a new and different look. We want to show the tech, but we also want to hide the tech. I think people love the irons these days that are like half cavity back, but they're really hollow. but they look like blades.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's like, ooh, they look like a blade, but there's all this hidden tech underneath. But then you really want visible technology as well, because that helps on the shelf. Like, I don't know, there's two extremes going on, and it's tough to find that middle ground. So I guess it's really just the way the overall club, how does it hit you? Does it look cheap? Does it look overdone? Or does it look sleek and new age modern? So I guess that's just like where that question comes from. Because I guess in 4 to 5 years, you know, every driver crown is going to be carbon fiber. If you don't have it, then, you know, you're at a loss. Maybe not Titleist or Ping, I'm not sure. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if crown is all carbon for the next 5 years, it's going to be like, okay, I mean, nothing's changed. I get it's carbon. It's been carbon. So I'm just curious how long that window might be.
I think the only time it maybe goes away is when we get back to full carbon heads, kind of like, you know, C4. There was that old Yonex head. I don't remember the name of that one. When you get to a head that has literally no titanium anymore, which TaylorMade's pretty close to in terms of a frame. It's basically where the hosel where the shaft tip goes in, the frame around the face, and that's it. The rest of it is all exactly. But they're going to run that. That's going to be bare carbon. You know, when somebody makes the first carbon one, it's going to be carbon, just like Callaway did the C4, the ERC Fusion, all that, because you have to show it off. Check it out. Whole thing's carbon. After that wears off a little bit and everybody starts doing it, then we may go back to more traditionally painted, you know, no carbon fiber tops. But yeah, I think it's just a way to tell the story a little bit, because if you don't have a story to go with the driver, I mean, look at Stealth when it came out. You know, was it like the number one biggest selling driver to ever, you know, hit golf? No, but it had one of the most interesting stories in the past 10 years of any driver having a carbon face. So, of course, they made it red. They made it red, one, so you could see it on TV, and two, because they wanted to stand out on the shelf. So when somebody picks it up, they're like, there it is. There's that carbon fiber face.
It's like, it's red. It's red.
Love it or hate
carbon.
it.
I have to try it just to see how it feels.
Yeah, whether you love or hate TaylorMade, you're going to hit it either way. You either want to be proven right that that it's great, or proven right that you think it's not great, and that's so. I think we're stuck with it for a while until we get to the point where the whole thing's carbon again, and I think that day's coming. I think it's definitely going to come eventually. I think you've got to push the limit somewhere, and I think that day will come. But I think we're probably a minimum of like 10 years away from it being like all painted, whatever. Again, I think the visible tech thing is kind of here to stay.
I want white carbon. Okay. TaylorMade did the white paint.
That's doable.
Now we got to figure out a way to get the actual carbon fibers that we see all white. That's next up.
That's interesting. I mean, you think about, look at like the Mitsubishi Tensei AV Raw series shafts. They're like aluminum vapor. It's aluminum vapor over the carbon. I mean, it's doable.
Well, I guess
it's definitely
PSG
doable.
already did that. Wasn't there carbon fiber silver?
That's true.
Top?
Yep. Yeah, the Gen 5 is. Yeah.
Maybe I'm late.
And the Gen 4 had just like a little section.
Did you have anything else on Aerojet?
Unfortunately, no, not yet. Hopefully next week I'll have more about it.
Now we'll use my transition now. Speaking of carbon fiber faces, how about that stuff too? So you took a trip out to Colin Morikawa did switch into the Stealth 2 Plus, as did Scotty Scheffler.
Yep.
Maybe bad timing on Colin since he choked it away, but it wasn't the driver's fault.
Nope.
But so obviously some hype around the Stealth 2 pretty early. You were out at the Kingdom with, I think, some other golf to be.
I was.
People. So I was not there. I guess I'll just let you take the stage and kind of explain what you were doing out there, your experience or their experience with the Stealth 2 products, and kind of just fill us in on what's going on.
Yeah, so we had 4 Golf WX members get all expenses paid pretty much. Head out to Carlsbad, got put up at the very nice La Costa Resort, and very posh. Even I met
Richard Jefferson one time there. Yeah, he was just standing there with the fam while I was out at like a TaylorMade event. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Anyway,
that's pretty cool. I didn't meet anybody, unfortunately, but yeah, they got to go to Monday. They got to go to headquarters, get all the tech presentation that like you and I get all the time as media people, where they get the deep kind of dive into into the story on the woods. And yeah, I mean, really,
presentation, little slide, take some notes.
Yeah, I think it was like basically like 9-1. We were in there going over woods, irons, putters that we can't talk about yet. And then head over after lunch, went over to the Kingdom, and these 4 people got basically fit for the most part, almost a full bag of clubs. I know they got woods, irons. There may be a putter tossed in there. I don't know. Some guys are hitting wedges. So I know woods and irons for sure. We'll see what else they get. But no, it's pretty cool. Stealth 2, really interesting. I mean, I know I've seen a lot of, comments online that, judging by the looks, they've kind of already judged it as a Sim 2 or whatever it was. Really interesting that they've basically gone and removed all the titanium off the club except for the frame that holds the face. So the face looks exactly the same. It is slightly different, still 60 layers. They've done some tweaking to the thicknesses. Out at the ends, they thinned it out a little bit to try to expand the sweet spot. And then the actual variable thickness face in the center is totally different, the way it's molded. It's like 2 grams lighter. But so it is a little different. But they've actually, the whole back is carbon pieces. It's basically a carbon sole, carbon top, and that red ring behind it is actually composite. It's not aluminum. It's not metal. So the only thing metal is the frame holding the face in the hosel, and the metal weight on the back are like the only things metal or metal on it anymore. It used to be an aluminum
ring in the back, and now it's carbon. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's moved to composite, and they said it's like a carbon reinforced composite or something like that. It's not the same as like a woven carbon fiber like the Crown is. It's a little different, but it's not metal. It's a composite material. So really interesting. They moved that. I think the other thing too is the +3 wood that has like the 50 gram sliding weight.
Intricate system.
Huge weight. Yeah, to slide it forward and back. And one of the guys said he got fit into it, and he said they were messing with the location of it. And he said from all the way back to all the way front, like noticed a huge difference in spin. Like a couple hundred RPM came off. It launched flatter. He's like, it wasn't just like placebo. Like he's like, I noticed as soon as they moved it forward, it was forward.
Changing the weight,
but overall,
as well, just real quick, it does change the way the club feels during the swing, though. So it can change your actual literal delivery patterns, which is why I think I think everyone should play around with the weights that they have down there just to see what effect it has.
So, no, all good. So yeah, so these guys got fit. The biggest thing that I've noticed, but the biggest thing I saw was one of the guys there, probably the lowest handicap player, swung it pretty good. He was like a 112 type guy, club head speed guy. Was carrying his like TSI 3 and a TSI 3. He was carrying that like 295ish. Was like his carry number. Yeah, he was ripping it, hits it, just killing it. And then, but the thing is, his miss was like a low heel shot that just shot straight up in the air and just kind of fell to the right and just died. And it spun at like 3,900 RPM. And he lost like 40 yards on it. I mean, just went nowhere. And he said, he's like, that's the shot that, he's like, I hate that shot. Like, that's my miss, whatever. And the biggest thing, seeing him like hitting shots that low heeled when he did, carried way further. I mean, I think he was like 299 carry with a stealth. And then when he missed it, the spin number stayed so low. I mean, he was kind of a neutral to slightly down guy anyway. So he had a little more spin. But I want to say like that shot there for him was like 30, like right around $3,000. It was like 3,100, $3,000. When he missed it, hit it low heel, it would kind of spin up. But like, I don't think I ever saw one go over 3,200 with that driver.
Faster speed than 112. 299's a big that's
like I know, dude. He hits it just like straight up in the air and just goes. Kid was crushing it, and he's like shorter guy than me. He wasn't like a big guy, just nuked it. But him, like it was like impressive to see a guy that knew his miss, knew when he missed it there it was bad, and then to see the improvement there. But that's, I think, the big, like last year I thought the big story was stability, like how stable every putter or every driver on the line was. This year I think a lot of these companies have figured out how do you keep spin down on miss hits. You know, when you hit it low heel, how do you keep that spin from climbing super high? If you hit it high on the toe, how do you keep a little bit of spin on it to keep it up in the air? And that variation of spin on miss hits is so tight. Like I've noticed in the Paradym, I now see it in the Stealth too. It's really, I think, kind of the big story this year of what companies are really doing. But I unfortunately was not fit, so I didn't get to pound balls in the range. I did get my. I got a Stealth 2. I got a Stealth 2 Plus head. I hit it on the range on Tuesday because Tuesday we went to the farms to go play golf. Unfortunately, got rained out after like 8 holes. It was pouring. I hit it on the range, hit it on the course for, out of those 8 holes, probably 5 out of the 8 times. I think there were 2 or 3 3 par threes in there. And I do say initial, I don't have any numbers, anything like that. Initially, though, my miss, shut face over the top. I come down, smother it, and I hit it like a low left little burner that goes nowhere. I hit a couple of those on, like 2 of those in the range, and the first hole I hit that same shot. All 3 of them stayed in the air longer, didn't go as low, and actually went a little farther than I thought. So when I drove up to the shot on 1, I kind of thought maybe I just got it beyond where the fairway started, and I was a good 50 yards past that. And I was on the left side of the hill. I didn't mean it wasn't amazing, but I was in much better position than I thought I was going to be in. So overall, I think forgiveness is definitely up on it, but I don't have a full review yet until I can take it out very shortly.
How'd you like the glossy look?
It looks good. So I don't mind it because I have my Stealth was a My Stealth program that I custom ordered, and I went gloss crown with the white chalk frame. So I was full gloss anyway. Yeah, I was full gloss anyway, so I'm all good. But no, I think it looks good, and it's a decent transition with the matte top line where the alignment aid is matte. But I think it works really well. Personally, I like the look. I think the black and red looks good. Overall, I think it looks. The one interesting thing is the look between Plus, Standard, and then the HD. And the HD has like a red ring around the back of it, like really, really slips. Like where the crown fits in. The Plus, it's black, so it looks more compact. And on the HD, they made it red, and it actually looks a little bigger. So if you like a little bigger footprint, it's the same size. They're both saying it's 460 cc's, but like the HD looks significantly bigger, even though it's not. Like it's pretty interesting the way they did it, but pretty cool tech, and again shows that these guys aren't just repainting something and tossing it out there. There's a crap ton of new tech in the whole line.
What do you think about the Kingdom in general, and what were the forum members saying about the Kingdom in general?
That was kind of my most exciting part. Like I couldn't wait. I wanted to get in there first and stand on the other side. So when you walk into the Kingdom, there's these 2 like very ornate wooden doors, and you open it and go in this little hallway, and everything's wood, and I mean it's like really nice. It's like a nice country club when you walk in. And I wanted to be on the range to see like their faces as they walked out. And yeah, when they walked through that like garage door, through the little bay into the garage, like out onto the actual grass, like eyes were like dinner plates, and they were just like, what the heck? Like they had the little signs up with their names on them, a TrackMan set up at each one, ready to go.
Tiger's clubs in his locker.
And
there's a cool
and their bags are right there. Yeah, they filled up, and then but just like how perfect. I mean, there's a garage door basically about a sidewalk worth of cement, and then it's like fairway cut for about 100 yards. Pristine fairway cut about 100 yards to where the tents were and the setups were, and then you hit out into this range that's just beautiful. It's got a monster putting green on the. I mean, it's the nicest range I've ever hit on.
ECPC
and
LE Callaway Performance Center. Have you been there?
I've heard not since I've heard they remodeled.
I was just there after the remodel, so I can weigh in a bit.
Yes. So the last time I was there, I would say Kingdom over it, but I have not been there since they remodeled it, so I don't want to make that comparison yet because I haven't seen the new version of it. And then unfortunately, when you and I went to TPI, they were doing all that construction out on the range, and it was all being torn apart while they were doing stuff. So I can't really relate
until they're where they want to be. But yeah, they're definitely going under construction.
Yeah.
I would say the difference between ECPC, which is Callaway's Performance Center, and TaylorMade's, which is the Kingdom, is kind of that moment that you were talking about, where you go through the doors and you walk through the Kingdom building, and then all of a sudden it's like that aha moment. Driving into ECPC has a different feel because when you're driving into like the parking lot and you're going into the facility, you can see the whole range right away. Like you can see right through the range net. So there's not that element of surprise. I would say just like straight up apples to apples when you're on the range hitting, or just the facilities while you're there, I would say they're very similar. You know, you can hit pitch shots, chip shots to real greens. You can putt. Obviously, TrackMan, GC Quad, everything you can put on and get numbers, all sorts of fitting carts and heads, custom, everything, like whatever you want in terms of that. I think they're definitely on the same page. I would just edge to the Kingdom just for that element of surprise. So I won't grade them on anything that actually matters. But
no, but you're right, because like the Kingdom, I mean, you walk across the street because you park across the street at TaylorMade's headquarters, and it sits on a hill. But like you said, like everything is hidden. Like all you do is you see the building because there's hills that cover everything else, and you walk through the door. And like I said, I loved ECPC when I was there years ago. It was a little more like industrial. Like, yes, this is a prototype place. Like it was a little more industrial, where the Kingdom's a little more country clubbish. And I've actually been to both Kingdoms. I've been to the one in Reynolds, and I've been to both, fortunately. And I do to say the one in California, I'd probably take it over the one in the Reynolds one has an amazing range. It's massive. Like massive. It's so much wider and bigger and longer, but it doesn't have. It's got a nice building, but it's not as nice as Carlsbad. Carlsbad
as
is
a golfer,
ridiculous.
what I really care about is being able to hit iron shots or wedge shots into a green that actually behaves like a real green, where it's not just bouncing, bounding over, or it's not just stopping dead because the grass is all messed up or it's too long. And I think both of those companies, or both of those places, facilities, I should call them, do that very well. I mean, they offer greens with bunkers, and you could see how a ball actually reacts. You can really simulate full game mode at both the Kingdom and ECPC and TPI. I don't want to remove them, but as of now, they're pretty much under construction. You can still go hit balls and stuff. I won't blow the top off their plans or anything, but they did kind of clue me in on what they got going on, how it's going to look and feel, and the capabilities they're going to have at TPI.
Yeah,
CPC
it'll be
and
sick.
the Kingdom better be careful. That's all I'm saying.
But you and I went there and we're almost hitting guys trimming trees because they were out there on the range. So we almost hit a few poor boys and hard hats. So. But no, it's one of those places, if you ever were to get invited to go or have the opportunity to go, it's absolutely a bucket list type thing. Any of those places. If you get the opportunity to go to any, both of the Kingdoms, TPI, ECPC, I mean, if you get a chance to go to any of those, absolutely do it. It is a bucket list type thing. You will not regret going, because it'll blow your mind, and the fittings and all that are
any chance
amazing.
You get to get fit in general, I think you should take it.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're dialed, even if it's just you go check lofts and lies and make sure the shaft is right, something like that. I think just more fitting than less fitting is always a good thing. But anyway,
100%.
So you went to the Kingdom with 4 forum members, learned about the Stealth 2, talked to all sorts of higher ups at TaylorMade to get their design insights. All of that was put on video by our new content video partners. They're called Saye Productions. That's SAEYAE. Saye.
Yep.
Okay. All on video.
The boys were there, man.
Looks awesome. It's on our Golf WRX YouTube channel. which I believe is just YouTube/GolfWRX. I don't think it's too difficult. Also, you can find all that content over on GolfWRX.com, which if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure it's already saved as a tab in your Google Chrome or whatever you use.
Probably.
But yeah, did you have anything else on that experience?
Yeah, it was funny. So when like usually when we do a lot of video stuff, it's kind of like you and me, and we kind of we make it look. We don't know what we're good, but we make it look good.
Well,
but honestly, like these guys were they were super professional. They're changing settings on cameras and changing lenses and doing all this crazy stuff.
We don't even have cameras, like lenses.
Yeah, I mean, we have a camera that has a lens. But it was pretty cool. Like they had drones flying all over the place. The guy running the drone had like the goggles on because he was watching it, and he's just like, he was sitting on the side of the range of the Kingdom and like flying it like over the hill and like around and back up and I mean, it was kind of crazy. He'd fly it down range as guys were hitting balls. I mean, it was one of those, like, it was pretty cool to watch. And he did one time though, he flew it out there, and I don't know what happened, but it either he lost control or connection or whatever, and it just fell out of the sky and just landed on like the green out there.
Crashed,
and it was like 200. It still worked, but it just like died just hell. So they had to like tell the guys to stop hitting balls. It was like 200 yards out there. The guy had to like jog out and get it off the green and bring it back. So, but yeah, the video turned out awesome. Like I thought the stuff looks really, really cool.
Yeah, I have worked with them myself. I worked for about 2 months on a project that I believe is going live next week. So we have an 8-part video series of me testing golf clubs on video, ready to be published. I believe it's going Monday. So this time next week, I think we'll be able to start talking about all this stuff. I've had
a pretty cool
mouth for so long now, and it's been really difficult. So if you want a preview of like the video quality that's coming up, and you're jealous about the forum trip, or you want to know something about the Stealth 2, check out what's on our YouTube page currently, and then definitely be on the lookout. I will be testing clubs on camera. If you've never seen me swing, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people just listen to us talk. They never actually see us hit balls. It's probably been a while since I've showed my swing or my game on GolfWRX. I don't think I've done too much on video in the last, since I rejoined. So this will kind of be my foray into GolfWRX swing testing on video. Don't roast me too hard. Just trying to give the people good information. Don't forget that.
I'm excited, man. You sent me a little preview link of one of the things, so I got to watch it. I think it's super cool. So I'm super excited to now know, because this is actually the first time I knew that it could be going live next week. I knew it was going to be soon and all that, but I'm super excited now to see the final. Like I saw a little preview thing. I didn't get to see the full blown videos yet, but I'm excited. I think it's really cool. I know when you and I were talking about it, when you were in the planning stages, it was, you and I were like two little kids, jotting down ideas and stuff like that. So it's
and we filmed.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty cool.
A month and a half ago. So I've just been waiting.
Yeah.
So episode 1 is going to go live next week. So we'll be here next week, do a little review of the review.
Yep. A little Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up, thumbs down.
You can chirp me for whatever I got wrong. Correct my mistakes. But yeah, a lot of exciting video content coming up within the next year. So definitely look out for that. Maybe he'll even help me with my microphone video setup on this podcast that we've been struggling with. But other than that, stuck at home and it's winter. You can throw on the Golf Channel, watch some Sony Open in Hawaii at Wailea. I don't know who your pick is to win. I don't even know who's in the field. But I do know that
Same here.
Scott's playing, and I can see him winning this event. It's not something he normally plays. So I could just see that it's this week. He strikes the ball.
I hope so. Last
you got to strike the ball around there.
last year he was the there was a short time when we were the Adam Scott podcast. So let's get a win out of him. Let's bring it back.
That's true. Start off 2023 same way we started 2022.
Yeah.
It is the Adam Scott podcast. But for real, I think this is a good podcast considering we weren't at the Sony Open and really had no pictures to go off of. So
yeah,
thank you to everyone who made it this far in the podcast. If you made it this far, I will clear something up real quick. It's not a champion pullover. It is a champagne. It is champagne.
champagne.
So
Champagne.
that was two guys talking golf. Maybe I'll go drink some champagne to celebrate this podcast being in the can. Hope you guys enjoyed it. That was two guys talking golf. We'll see you next week at the Amex.
Still go, 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 go.